Hey everybody, welcome back to Desktop Inventions with the first news week of April. I almost didn't get to make a video this weekend because I had some laser eye surgery. Luckily, that went well, actually better than expected, and I recovered super fast, so you guys are getting a video this week. And that's a good thing because this week's 3D printing news is stacked. We've got some awesome new printing technology from Bondtech. We've got a major acquisition drama, which I will spell out for you later, and some wild new battery technology that could seriously shake things up. So let's dive right in. All right, so first up, Bondtech just dropped their latest innovation. It's the Index tool head, and it's definitely an outside of the hot end solution. This new printing head is changing the game in multicolor, multi-filament, and even multi-nozzle prints. It offers industry-leading fast nozzle swaps in just 12 seconds. So how does this work? So this technology has just a single smart tool head which can swap out multiple thin passive tools. So the swappable tools, from what I understand, include the filament, a holder, and the nozzle, and no hot end. One major breakthrough they made is having nearly zero thermal mass to heat up. So when the smart tool comes and grabs a new swappable tool, it can heat up in just 4 seconds to start printing. Maybe this is using some type of induction heating system, I'm not sure, but they must have some really good thermal engineers working on this. So one of Bondtech's main goals with this design is to bring down the cost of each incremental swappable tool head down to as low as possible while still offering fast printing speeds. They're targeting to offer each additional tool as low as $35 each, while the smart head that you need to get started will cost around $250. So when can we buy this? Well, it's a very new technology and they're still in beta testing with early users to get this new design polished and all the bugs worked out before a wider release. Bondtech plans to launch this during the Form Next event in late November 2025, but on their website they're still looking for beta testers, so if you're interested you can reach out to them on their website and see if you can get in on the beta testing. I've got a link down in the description below. Whether you're running a Voron, a rat rig, or your own build, the Index might be the upgrade that you've been looking for. We'll all keep an eye out for this one in late November. Alright, buckle up everyone because this next story is straight out of large 3D printing corporate drama. So first up, a brief background of the players here. We've got Stratasys, who is basically the OG of 3D printing. They literally invented FDM printing back in the 80s, and they're still one of the largest players today in the polymer printing world. Then we've got Nano Dimension, who's an Israeli-based tech company focused on 3D printed electronics. They're trying to combine circuits and 3D printed parts and into micro devices. They've been aggressively acquiring companies to expand their footprint. And then third up, we've got Desktop Metal, who's a new player known for their affordable metal 3D printers, and they've got a ton of excitement when they went public a few years ago. So the drama begins. In 2023, Stratasys and Desktop Metal announced a huge merger. The goal was to combine polymer and metal 3D printing technologies into one huge powerhouse. But then enter Nano Dimension. Nano Dimension, who had already been quietly buying up Stratasys shares, eventually owning over 14% of the company, was not on board with this merger. They actually tried to buy Stratasys outright for $1.1 billion, claiming the Desktop Metal deal was overpriced and a bad idea. Stratasys rejected that offer from Nano Dimension, saying it undervalued their company. Nano Dimension then pushed back, using other shareholders to vote against the Desktop Metal merger with Stratasys. And then eventually a major shareholder vote of Stratasys, again who Nano Dimensions is one of the major shareholders, voted to shut down Stratasys acquiring Desktop Metal. So the deal was dead. But wait, we're not even close to done yet. So with the merger off the table, Nano Dimension didn't stop. So Stratasys can't buy Desktop Metal, but Nano Dimension, they wanted to buy Desktop Metal directly. So in July 2024, they announced they were going to acquire Desktop Metal in an all-cash deal worth $183 million. Sounds smooth, right? Not even close. So the deal was going slowly and lagging on, so Desktop Metal sued Nano Dimension, accusing them of deliberately dragging their feet and not completing the national security filings like they promised. To make things worse, Nano CEO Yoav Stern was ousted by shareholders and replaced by new leadership backed by activist investors who did not want the deal with Desktop Metal to go through. And at the same time, Nano Dimensions was suddenly pursuing a different acquisition, Markforged, which only added fuel to the legal fire. So then in the midst of all this drama, the courts step in. So just recently, in March 2025, the Delaware Court of Chancery ruled in favor of Desktop Metal. So basically, they said Nano Dimension had materially breached their agreement, and they forced Nano Dimension to complete the deal to buy Desktop Metal. So on April 2nd, just this week, after months of lawsuits, internal chaos, and more plot twists than a Netflix show, Nano Dimensions officially acquired Desktop Metal for $175 million. So how about the deal with Markforged? Well, that deal hasn't been reported as dead or a surefire thing either, as of now anyways. Let's give it some time. Tune in next time for another episode of 3D printing corporate chaos, big money, big egos, and big moves. But seriously, let me know if you find this big 3D printing news interesting in the comments down below. All right, so next up we've got Rapid and TCT 2025. One of the biggest additive manufacturing events in North America is coming up fast. Rapid plus TCT 25 is heading to Detroit this April. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest check out my video of TCT Asia 2025 from Shanghai, where I attended this similar event last month. So at this event, there's going to be a lot of new technology. Elegoo, for one, is planning to debut their new Jupiter series resin printer, and they're not the only one. There's also Prusa that's going to come out and show their new Core 1, Core XY printer, Ultimaker with their new super fast S8 printer, and then Stratasys also is going to show their new Origin 2, which has high speed and high accuracy in a resin printer. And I'm sure there'll be many, many more 3D printers to see there. So if you're into bleeding edge hardware and you're not far from Detroit, this is definitely an event worth attending. All right, so last major news topic here, and this one's a wild one. So a company called Sakuu, based out of San Jose, California, has developed a platform that they call Kavian, which can 3D print battery electrodes without using liquids, a huge step forward in battery technology. But just a quick disclaimer, when it comes to new battery technologies, we see a new lab breakthrough reported almost every week. But very few of these ever reach mass production or scale enough to really make a real-world impact. But that being said, Sakuu has already made it into the world of industry partnerships, which is a big milestone. In July 2024, Sakuu entered a joint development agreement with SK On, a major EV battery manufacturer from South Korea. This partnership focuses on industrializing the Kavian platform to improve battery electrode production. And it's worth noting that SK On is no lightweight. They're already a supplier for Hyundai, and they're building a US manufacturing plant in a joint venture with Ford, set to start production this year in 2025. So globally, SK On is ranked as the 5th largest EV battery manufacturer, behind CATL, BYD, LG Chem, and Panasonic. So anyways, back to Kavian. Why is this such a big deal? Well, it's because it's a dry process technology. That means no toxic solvents, which makes it safer, faster, and more environmentally friendly, which can all be done in a smaller factory footprint for potentially less investment. It also enables things like custom battery shapes and multi-material stacking, stuff that traditional lithium-ion processes just can't do today. So they're aiming this technology at solid-state batteries, often referred to as the holy grail of battery technology. These solid-state batteries, in theory, can deliver much higher energy density and ultra-fast charging, possibly in under 5 minutes. Although to be fair, we haven't yet got public specs on what kind of performance or capacity Sakuu's Kavian-made batteries are achieving just yet. Still, it would be incredible if one of 3D printing's first big mass production successes ended up being in battery manufacturing. The potential scale is massive, and who knows, someday we may all be riding on 3D printed batteries, someday in the future. We'll see. All right, so let's jump over and take a look at Thingiverse and Printables 3D prints of the week.
Hey, watch out!
All right, so first up on Prints of the Week, this is from Thingiverse, brought to us by Conceptify. This is the Zelda breakable pot. And actually, I believe this model started out on Cults 3D, where you can go and support the creator, Conceptify, by purchasing this model. It's also available for free on Thingiverse, although I think that file does have some issues with it, per the comments. So let's dive right in. All right, so this is such a fun print. I mean, you can just break it apart into pieces and then put it together again and again like a puzzle. And the secret to it, of course, is it's got embedded magnets in it here. And I've probably put this thing together like 50 times. It is just so fun and satisfying to put this together again and again. I'll do it quickly for you here. And then just break it and smash it to pieces again and again. It never gets old. And then you can see here I've got all these little rupees, which if you ever played The Legend of Zelda, when you can go into people's houses, break these pots open, and then you get rubies from them. Usually not this many rubies. That's one way of getting money in the game. So really a flashback to nostalgic childhood with this print here, and it is super fun, super satisfying how all the pieces click together perfectly, and they just fit so nicely together thanks to the magnetic alignment. So that is the Thingiverse and Cult's 3D Print of the Week. So next up is the Printables Print of the Week, and this one is from Printables.com. They have these flash contests every so often, and the last one I saw was for beads. So I was looking through the top list of the beads and things submitted there, and my favorite was these little Pokeball beads. So I 3D printed these off. These are made by Hoodie 3D printed these with the X1 carbon. And unfortunately, I only have red and white, so those colors turned out awesome. But the black, I had to use a pen or marker to color those in, and that tends to bleed through the layer lines. So ignore the crappy painting by me with a black marker. But these I thought were really, really fun and actually solving a problem I have, which is with shorts going through the washing machine, these strings tend to pull out and get lost, so you have to ruffle through the elastic band part here and try and get that string pulled back out, which is super annoying at times. So I'm going to use these in the future to tie a knot on here, tie 2 knots, and then make sure that my short strings won't get lost or pulled through in the washing machine. All right, so there we go. Got the Pokeballs added to the short strings here, and let's see and make sure they don't pull through. And there we go. They are foolproof. They cannot pull through there. So no more lost short strings in the washing machine. That is our Thingiverse and Printables Prints of the Week. All right, so for the short topics, we've got a few of these here. The first one is from Jeffy2, labeled Never Surrender. This is pretty hilarious. We've all been there. You're in the middle of a print and the support or something fails. It's coming off the bed. So you scramble to come up with whatever you can to keep that print going. So it looks like Jeffy here took maybe two coffee cups, taped them onto the bed, taped a bridge across the 2 coffee cups to successfully make a print support for his print. And it looks like Jeffy's gonna be okay. Nice ingenuity there. All right, and this one's pretty good by Next Best. Someone gifted me a cheap 3D pen. Rate my sub 5-minute benchy. And this one's pretty hilarious. I can see it, it's definitely a benchy. And I'll give him props. I think this is a better 5-minute benchy than my Ender 3 could do. So this is A for effort right here. Nice job, Next Best. All right, so it looks like we have some breaking news in here. Creality just released a sub $1,000 desktop metal 3D printer. This thing can forge parts at over 900 degrees Celsius right on your desktop. Oh wait, this is an April Fool's joke. Of course this is too good to be true. 900 degrees Celsius on your desktop, that sounds like a safety nightmare and disaster waiting to happen. But maybe someday we'll get metal 3D printers in our home. But for now, this was a good April Fool's joke. All right, that's it for 3D printing news this week. From Bondtech's new toolhead to Sakuu's futuristic solid-state batteries to corporate drama in the 3D printing world. Let me know what news story caught your attention the most, and leave a comment down in the comment section down below. We'll see you next week on Desktop Inventions.